I'm audible properly? Okay, thank you. So yesterday we completed our prototype, right? Just a minute. Okay. So yesterday we completed our prototype, like how do we do the inheritance and like that. Okay. So today we will see promise. Okay. We will start with basic and some programming what normally get asked that we will check. Okay. Now, so everyone knows like how JavaScript works. JavaScript works synchronous, means line by line it will execute. It doesn't wait for one line to perform something and then it will start again, right? So JavaScript is a synchronous, it will execute line by line. It won't wait for one line to complete some operation. It will directly jump to the next line, right? So you might have seen set timeout. So if you have set timeout, the lines of code you have in set timeout will execute after that particular time of interval happens. So that's something is asynchronous. Okay. So as JavaScript executes synchronous, so there are some operations like which we have to wait for something. And once that operation is done, then we need to execute some particular line of code. Means asynchronous means we have to wait for something to execute, and once that operation is done, whatever it is we are saying, after that we need to execute some number of particular line. Okay, so for that we use we have to write asynchronous code. So in JavaScript we have promise. Now those guys who are from the Angular, so in Angular also we can use promise, but we use RxJS, so observable we prefer. But there might be project or you might be also working, if your team lead or your architect is from the strong JavaScript background, instead of using RxJS, he will ask you to use the promise for making API call as well. Means instead of HTTP client, you will be writing fetch and everything. Okay. So let's start with the basic. Now, how do we create a promise? Like what things we have, like promise has different, what do we say, statuses. What different statuses are those? So everything we are going to see. Okay. So let's create a very basic promise. Let's say constant, let's say result is equal to new promise. Okay. This is how you create a promise. Promise has two callback, success or error, or the right word will be resolve or reject. So round bracket, here you can see resolve and the reject. So promise has two callback, resolve and the reject. So let's give a name to that also. Resolve, reject. Okay. These names are not, it is not required that you have to give the same name. We can give anything. Just for the first one, I'm using the same name. Now, here, let's say we have a local variable. Let's say it's true. And here I'm saying true value. Here I will write if condition. If this local variable has true value, what I will do, I need to return this promise as a success. So I will use resolve. So success means resolve. So resolve, and while sending the resolve, while making it success, I can pass some message also, value also. Let's say promise success. Okay. And in else, we will return reject. So reject, and you will return, let's say, error in promise. Okay. So this is how you create a very basic promise. New promise. Then as I said, promise has two callback, resolve and the reject. So we write like that based on the condition. Now here code can be anything. Based on the condition, sometimes you send success, sometimes you send error back, like that. Okay. Just for understanding, I'm giving a very example of if and else. Now this we created. Now, as I said, once this particular block execute, after that I need to write something. So what I can do, result dot see what it is suggesting, then catch finally. So when we create a promise and we want to listen to that promise, we want to check what the data promise is returning. So we have three blocks, dot then, catch, and finally. So success is for dot then. Means if you want to write success callback, so you will be using dot then. Result. Okay, let's add a debugger over here. Let's print it also. Whatever the value we get, console.log result, I will print it over here. So see, when I'm marking this promise as a resolve, I'm sending some data. So that data, I will get it over here. Dot catch. So if your promise is rejected, your catch block will execute. While rejecting, I'm sending some data. So that data also I can access over here. Let's add a debugger. Let's print this. Whatever the value we get, that we will print it over here. And we have a finally block. Okay, finally block will execute every time. Doesn't matter your promise was a success one or the error. Your finally block will execute all the time. So console.log, I will say finally block. Okay, let me just run this now page. Let's open it side by side. Okay, now see line number 26. What we got? Promise success, and finally block got executed. Okay, because when we executed this promise, inside that what we read, what we have written, we have created a local variable where the value was true. So if it is true, we are resolving it. Means we are returning a success. So this dot then will execute. Let me reload. Then you will see. See, dot then got executed and we got the result. Whatever we return while resolving, that message I got it over here. Continue. After that, let's add a debugger over here also. After that, it will go to your finally block. Okay. Now let's change this value to false. Now vice versa. Now see, my catch block got executed, and whatever we return while rejecting, that I'm able to access it over here. Error catch block got executed. Once I continue, again my finally block got executed. Means doesn't matter if your promise is resolved or rejected, finally block is going to execute at all the time. If your promise got resolved, your dot then will execute, otherwise catch. This is the basic of promise. Now, just to relate those who are from the Angular background. So dot then is similar to your subscribe. Consider this is your observable, and you are whatever the data you are returning back from this observable, you are subscribing to it, but you are using dot then instead of dot subscribe. And this is your error block. How we normally write in API call. We don't have finally block over there, but here we have it. So this is very basic of promise. Okay. Let's go with basic question, then we will move ahead with more ways. Okay. Yeah. Anyone having any question?
In which scenarios we usually use this promise in real application?
Whenever you have to write async code, what async operation we normally do when we work on web application? What's the async operation we do? API call, yes. Right? So here you will write your fetch API call. So in JavaScript, we'll do the API call by using fetch API, right? So fetch. If you see the data type, return type, what's the return type? Fetch promise, right? If you see the result, what's the return type? Promise, right? So if it is promise, we can
And
use
what is the difference? And
Okay.
what is the difference between async and await? Where
Async and event is something else. We want to.
okay. So this is like related to subscribe to
Yeah,
fetch
that
the.
correct. Okay.
Okay.
Async is something else. We want execution to be stopped on that line. Getting it?
Yeah.
So if we
Okay.
if our API call gets succeed, So then block will like
Right.
execute it.
So let's say we
So-
have fetch. So here you can see again something similar like coming dot then if your API call error, it will go to the catch.
Then what
Got it?
will happen to the final?
Nothing.
Nothing.
See, finally block will execute every time. Either it is success or error. There might be scenario, na? We have to write something. Even if it is success or error, we need to write something. So that we write it into your finally block. Okay. Normally, if you consider API example, what we are going to write, no? But there might be another scenarios also, no? Not just we use promise just for making the API call, right?
Sir, but then when we are using fetch, we don't need the promise and all, no? Because in that
No.
only we can give
See.
async and wait.
Fetch, see, if you check the result, what is the return type of result? Promise. What's the return type of fetch? Promise, right? It's like you have stored promise into this variable. So you use dot then, just like that fetch, then dot then. Why you will again create a promise? By default, this fetch is returning a promise type of data.
Yeah, that's
Clear?
what I'm telling you. Then
Yeah.
there is no as such need of promise. That's what I'm telling you.
No,
Because
fetch is by
since
default returning promise.
Acha.
Okay, it's not, you are not going to write it, but by default
Mhm.
fetch function is returning promise.
Mhm.
Now clear?
Okay. Mm.
So what you said was correct, but it's not we are using it. Okay, it's just like we don't write it. Okay.
Can you just give another example without
Yeah.
API call? Without
Yeah,
the
yeah.
API.
Okay. So everyone understood this is very basic of promise. Okay. And
सर ये थोड़ा सा कॉल बैक समझा दोगे रिजॉल्व रिजेक्ट जो तो डाले हमने न्यू
callback
प्रॉमिस
मतलब कंसिडर करो प्रॉमिस का सिंटैक्स पकड़ के चलो. प्रॉमिस either it can be rejected or success, means either it will be success or rejected. Okay. So that is the callback handler we have it over here. It's consider करो ये सिंटैक्स है. अगर तुमको प्रॉमिस सक्सेस कर रहे हैं तो ये यहाँ पे जो लिखोगे वो उसके साथ कुछ वैल्यू रिटर्न करोगे. अगर एरर लिखना है तो सेकंड वाला पैरामीटर. नेम कैन बी
एट द
एनीथिंग.
एंड ये रिजॉल्व एक फंक्शन ही है ना रिजॉल्व एंड रिजेक्ट
नहीं, कॉल बैक है ना, फंक्शन नहीं है. सी, रिजॉल्व की जगह में सक्सेस भी लिखो. अब क्या बोलोगे? ओके, व्हाट यू कैन राइट इट एनीथिंग ओवर हियर. Promise has, consider promise is like a function and that function has two parameter. Now parameter name can be anything, na? Just like that.
Yeah, first
Okay.
on the very first it's gonna be resolved. The second parameter is reject. We can
Reject.
name it.
Right.
Okay.
Name can be anything, but the right word is resolve and the reject. So that's why I have given this.
Okay, call back.
Example of API call using promise.
Yeah. Okay. So this
Sir,
is the
I
basic
can say
example.
it's a keyword for the promise, right?
Which keyword?
Resolve and reject.
No, these are parameters, just like a
Actually, hello.
normal function has.
Okay.
Okay.
एक्चुअली ये दो ही रिजल्ट देगा, या तो रिजॉल्व कर देगा या तो रिजेक्ट कर देगा. उसके
Reject
बीच में
करेगा.
हाँ, या बीच का इसका कोई रिजॉल्व सोल्यूशन नहीं मिलेगा,
नहीं
राइट?
है. Right.
हाँ, इसीलिए यहाँ पर हमने जो फाइनली यूज किया है, या तो अगर उसको मिलेगा तो वो सीधे उसको जाके ब्लॉक कर देगा, मतलब कि हमारे पास कोई तीसरा रिजल्ट है नहीं, या तो
Right.
राइट.
Okay.
सर पेंडिंग स्टेट कैसे हैंडल करेंगे फिर इसमें सर?
पेंडिंग स्टेट हैंडल नहीं होता है, वो जस्ट एक स्टेट है, बट हम पेंडिंग स्टेट ऐसा कुछ कर नहीं सकते. उसके अकॉर्डिंगली कोडिंग नहीं कर सकते पेंडिंग के अकॉर्डिंग. वो
अच्छा,
जस्ट
मतलब
एक
हम
स्टेट
जो
है
रेगुलर
कि
में कॉल
प्रॉमिस का
करते
स्टेट.
हैं तो लोडर
हाँ,
वगैरह दिखाते
तो वो एक तुम यहाँ पे ट्रू करो, मतलब लेट्स से यहाँ पे तुमको कुछ एपीआई कॉल लिखना है तो यहाँ पे ट्रू करो, एक वेरिएबल फॉल्स करो, वो कस्टम कोड हो गया. ओके,
अच्छा सर,
जस्ट लाइक.
अच्छा, मतलब अलग से स्टेट नहीं है इसमें कोई?
नहीं, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. यहाँ पे है स्टेट, बट वो थेरोटिकल स्टेट है. वी कैन नॉट एक्सेस दैट स्टेट पेंडिंग.
चेतन सर.
हम्म.
हेलो सर, ये तो इसका मतलब ये एक तरह से ट्राई और कैच और फाइनलाइज को भी फॉलो करेगा, राइट? उसमें भी सेम कॉन्सेप्ट होता है, क्योंकि वहां पर वो होल्ड
नहीं,
करेगा.
वो ट्राई कैच अलग है ना. वो ट्राई कैच
अच्छा.
अलग है. ट्राई के अंदर अपना कोड लिखते हैं, अगर उसमें से कुछ भी ब्रेक हुआ तो अपना कैच एग्जीक्यूट हुआ होता है. दिस
बट वो
इज, यू कैन
उसका भी
नॉट रिलेट
रिजल्ट,
टू दैट.
हाँ, उसका भी रिजल्ट जो फाइनल में हमारा फाइनलाइज के अंदर ही आता है ना, जो उसको ब्लॉक कर देता है डायरेक्ट, कि हमारे पास अब कोई रिजल्ट नहीं है. जो सोल्यूशन होगा वो ट्राई और कैच के अंदर ही होगा. कैच
हाँ.
होल्ड कर देगा, है ना, राइट?
राइट
सर ऐसा बोल सकते हैं कि ये जो if else है वो try catch से रिप्लेस हो गया।
हाँ, राइट राइट, ये
कौन सा if else ये?
हाँ सर, ऐसा
नहीं नहीं
जैसे
नहीं,
जो
ये
जो
जस्ट मैंने
सक्सेस
कोड लिखा
पार्ट
है।
है।
लेट से
ज-
मैंने ये निकाल दिया,
हाँ
अब ये प्रॉमिस हमेशा रिजॉल्व ही होगा, एरर आएगा ही नहीं, क्योंकि मैंने ये स्टैटिक रखा। समझे? वो जस्ट मैंने कंडीशन बताने के लिए कि रिजॉल्व भी हो सकता है रिजेक्ट, उसके लिए लिखा है मैंने। ऐसा भी रह
ओके
सकता है कि हमेशा ये प्रॉमिस सक्सेस ही होगा, ये कभी एरर जाएगा ही नहीं, क्योंकि लिखा ही मैंने हार्ड कोडेड है।
ओके,
Okay,
ये
wait,
सक्सेस
let me
है।
complete all example, then you will understand again. Okay,
ओके
fine. So this is the first example, like basic syntax, how we create the promise. अब it's not required that I have to create a promise and store into a new variable. I can directly write new promise dot, here only I can make it new promise. How do we write that? Resolve dot, wait, new promise. Success. Why it's not suggesting? Let's see if it works. No, something is wrong. Unreferenced success is not defined. New promise. We are directly resolving it. How do we write it? New promise. Anyone have done like that instead of storing into a variable? Yesterday I was writing and again I forgot. How do we directly create a promise? I don't want to store it into a variable, like self-executing. Directly it will execute over here only. Promise. We don't need. Let's try. This also not working. Promise constructor cannot be invoked without new con. Right. I forgot like how, what was the syntax. Like, anyway, let's see the remaining example, then I will come to this. Okay. Now, coming back to your RxJS. So consider like you are working on a project, and in that project you have a dashboard page. In dashboard page, multiple data is there. Somewhere you need some count, somewhere you need recent data, expiry data, something. So many data is there. So all that data you normally don't get with one single API call. There are multiple API call we need to do, right? And if you have a task like in one component, you are going to make 4 API call, and you need to wait. You don't have to load the page unless all 4 API responses are there. So what do we do? Similar thing in Angular. You need to wait. You need to concurrently make all 4 API call, and you need to wait until all API responses are there. Then you need to do something. What do we do in Angular? How do we handle this
Asynchronous.
scenario?
Fork join.
Fork join, no? Why async await?
Yes,
Fork join.
fork join.
How do we combine multiple observable? Fork join, no? Okay. So similar to that, in JavaScript, in Promise, how do we do that? Okay. Means I need to run multiple promises in one go. Okay. So constant, let's say promise1 is equal to new promise. Okay. Inside that promise, I'm going to directly returning the result. Set timeout. Let's say first promise will be executed on 2 seconds. Okay. Here I will say 2000. Promise1 2000. Okay. Just like this, one more promise I will create. Promise2. Here I'm making it 1000. Promise2 and 1000. one more promise, where promise 3. Here I will say 5,000. Promise 3 and duration is 5,000. Okay. Now I have 3 promises. Now I need to wait if all promises has done its processing. After that, I need a single, just like how we used to do. We used to create multiple observable and we have a single subscribe call. Now for all these promises, I need to wait until all these promises are executed. Then I will have a dot then. So now here we have Promise.all. Just like in RxJS, we have spoke join. So here we have Promise.all. Okay. Then here you have to send the array of promises. Promise 1, promise 2, promise 3. Okay. Dot, single dot, then result. Okay. Let's add a debugger. Okay. Now see, first promise is going to be, we have taken here only one parameter, means success only. Okay. If you just add a one parameter, means it's success. If you add a 2 parameter, then result and error. Okay. So in first promise is going to execute it after 2 seconds, 1 second, and the 5 seconds. So this promise, all this debugger should be activated after 5, 6, and 8 seconds. Okay. Let's try it now. Continue, continue. Okay, so see, now after 8 seconds we got, and in result you can see we got array. In forkjoin also we get similar to this array, whatever the observable you said, like that multiple array you will get. So similar to that you see 2000, 1000, and 5000. Just was like this, how it was the index sequence, just like that you get the data over here. Okay, so Promise.all, it will wait for all promise to be completed. Then only this dot then will execute. Okay. Remember that Promise.all will execute if all promise are success. Okay. Now, let's in second one, let's add second thing, result error. Okay. And here I'm rejecting this promise 2. Okay. So see, uncaught promise. So since I rejected this promise, let's say, consider like API call scenario. You are making 3 API call by using fetch, and 1 API got failed. So that promise got cancelled, rejected. So yours all won't execute. So problem with Promise.all is if all promises are executed properly, all are success, then only your all will execute. Otherwise, it won't. Because promise to be rejected it. Error we have used. This is nothing but resolve and reject. So we use rejected. So this promise was rejected, right? So your all didn't execute it. Okay. So this is the problem with all. Now to solve this, one more is there. Let's comment this. I'm commenting this all one. Now promise dot all settled. Okay. Now let's check this all settled. Here also you can pass array of promise. Let's copy, paste it over here. Dot then. Okay. Let's add a debugger. So you remember promise to we are rejecting. Okay. Let's see. See, we got debugger. And if you see the result, we have got whole data. Okay. Everything. But now if you see in result, we got something different data. Status fulfilled. 2001 got fulfilled. Middle one, promise 2 got rejected. Third one got fulfilled. So remember I was telling like this pending, settled. So just like that fulfilled. Okay. So in case of say all settle, whatever the promises you send, it will, doesn't matter if any promise got rejected or any failed, it will execute, but it will come up with the response properly, like the which promise got settled and which not. Like this, and value also, whatever the value you return, that also you get. So all has a problem that if any promise got failed, that all won't execute. This problem we can solve by all settled. It will wait for all promise for its execution. Even if it fails or any of that success, it will still execute because it will provide you the proper response also, like which got fulfilled or which got error, something, right? So it will come up with the proper status code also of all the promises. Okay. Just like this, we have one more thing. Let's go over here. Now remember, when we created promise, here we have time second in 2000, here we have 1000, and here we have 5000. Now consider like you are working on a project where, what do we say, kind of a trading application is there, like share market application is there. So there you cannot, your API should be very scalable. It should not wait for, it should not take so much time to provide the response. Within second you should, because share market changes every second, right? So you have to have your APIs always ready. Okay. So consider like you are making an API call, and for checking particular share value, right? You have multiple API call. If one, let's say 3 API call is there, it is going to get you the same data. Okay. Let's say one is developed with Java, one is developed with SharePoint, one is developed with .NET or Node.js, anything, right? So 3 different URL we have, all are giving you the same data. Okay. So whatever the first response you get, that you need to consider. Getting it scenario? You have 3 API call. Whatever the API give you the first response, that you will use and you will do your work. Because at the runtime, API, any of the 3 APIs or anyone might give you a quicker response. So whatever the first response you get, you are going to move ahead with that. So just like all settled, we have race. Okay. So now promise dot race. Okay. Now here we can pass our array. Dot then, okay, result. Let's save, continue. Wait, something. Okay, that other promise got. So now in case of race, we have again the problem of all. Okay. So this promise got rejected. So that won't execute. Okay. So let's send it success only. Let's try it again. Okay. So see, which we got 1000. This is the first promise. A second one with the very less time, that only we got. Okay. So race is like, just like normal we use race word. Whatever the promises you say, out of that, whatever the first one executed, that it will work. Clear? All settled, race. All will wait for all the promises to be executed properly. All settled will also wait for all the promises to be executed. But if any one promise got rejected, it won't break, it will execute. But in case of all, if all are success, then only that all was getting executed properly. Now, another scenario is race. Let's say you have 3 promises. Out of that, whatever the first executed, that response you will get. So like the promise which was having 1000, so it is means this was getting executed. Okay. So all settled and the rest. Clear on? Understood?
Hey man, here.
Yeah. Yes,
Uh,
Shashi.
just one thing to add up here for the race. Basically, race depends on the first promise to execute. It doesn't consist like if it is success or failure. Whatever occurs
Whatever the
will, yeah,
first one execute.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
we didn't add the catch block. That's why it break, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Right.
So whatever, because as the name suggests race, so it just wait or okay, whichever one. If you see the time there, right, the time was 1000 milliseconds, so that will
Right.
occur first.
Right.
Even if it is error,
So
it
if
doesn't care
we,
about.
yeah,
Yeah.
in case of break, it break because we didn't handle that catch. Right.
You need to change that as well. The example.
No. I
use the-
rejected it, no?
Okay, yeah,
So
it's
my
there. Yeah,
catch
cool.
block should, okay, it is executing, but it is printing. Debugger is not there. So see, previously we were having that break, but now we handled by using the catch. So now catch block will execute because the first promise which is going to execute it is having 1000 and we are returning error. So we are rejecting it. So catch block got executed. Previously we didn't add that. So that's why it broke. Okay.
All these three will wait for the all three promises to
No.
execute.
Race won't execute. Race won't wait. No, whatever first execute, it will go ahead with that. Either it is success or error.
All
Just
settled and
all
all will
settled
wait.
and all will wait.
Okay.
But all, if it all are success, then only this will execute. Otherwise, it will go to the catch block. But all settled will always, like if any of the such I'm correct, right? Any of it execute, then will execute. Otherwise, it will go to the catch block. Correct?
Sir, in the race only one will execute and rest two will execute or will won't execute. What?
No. Race, whatever the promise get executed first, it will go ahead with that only. It
Okay.
won't check the remaining.
Okay.
Okay. Whoever comes first, simple.
Promise 1, 2, and 3 will be executed simultaneously only, no? But
They will execute, but see the time now. We are returning in set timeout, we are returning success or result, success or error.
No, I think it will synchronously execute, and then it will display the result as for the first promise, it will say
Yeah,
promise
whatever
1.
the first promise
Yeah.
written.
In
I'll
the
tell you.
all settled, and in race, it will asynchronously execute, and whichever executes first, it will display that.
No, nothing synchronous. All are asynchronous only. That's the promise now. Okay. All are
Guys,
asynchronous.
let me give you an example. Okay, first of all, to answer the questions on promise, always try to keep it simple because the answer lies in its name itself. So whenever I say race, right, so in the race you cannot have multiple winners, you can only have one winner. Okay, and if you see this code, so you can see the second one is fastest because the time is 1000 millisecond, which means if you see, even if we are passing array of promises, we are only getting one result. Whoever wins first, so that's what you get as a race. So whenever you answer these questions on promise, right, so the name gives you the answer itself. When you say promise.all, which means all should success, correct? When you say promise.all settled, which means it is not talking about success or failure, everything should run. That's what all settled means. And when you say promise.race, race means you will only get one winner, so you get only one output. Even if it is failure or success, you will get the outcome. So something like that. So this is what I actually follow, so maybe that you can also see, like the answer is in the name itself. So
Right.
just try to keep it
Because if
simple.
we choose random word, again, more question will
Yeah.
be there.
Yeah, exactly. Just try to keep it simple. That's all.
So clear on? Shashi, you
Yes.
joined, like, how do we directly create the promise? I don't want to store it into a variable. Directly. I
I
need
given a
to,
snippet in the chat. Can you please check?
new promise. Same thing we written, no? But no. What did we mistake? Let me copy paste. Shashi, got my question? I don't want to store it into a variable. New promise, resolve, reject, or operator set time. Yeah. So what we did earlier wrong?
syntax.
No, like this I'm saying. This is, instead of storing into a variable, it will directly execute. But I'm saying like this. Shashi, you know how do we create write like this? You're talking on mute.
Oh wait, sorry.
Yeah.
I have two samples. Maybe this is what you mean to store it as a something like that.
Yes, we are storing into a variable, but how do we directly create it? And while creation only, I'm resolving it also.
Without creating variable.
Not, I don't want to store it into.
Not
Yeah, this is
assigned.
there.
Mhm.
Why? But it is like we are writing a callback, then we are
Yeah.
we will actually
Directly
success or result.
with the method like method.
Create at the time of creation only we success or make it result. Yesterday I
That's-
was doing
that's
something there. I saw that.
Interesting. I always see it basically it's a class, right? So you have to come up with the new keyword all the time. So that's how you create.
I have seen, so I was trying that.
Inside that you write that resolve and reject, it will work now.
Wait, let me check where I
Inside
have
promise.
in prototype or
Because
where
I
I have
have the
written
same
that.
sample in my code snippet what I actually teach.
Somewhere I have written that. Not in prototype.
think this is the most famous one by using this new keyword.
Right.
There are other. I don't know, maybe you can, because it is a static class, right? So you can use Promise.resolve or whatever you want to. Like call Promise.resolve, Promise.reject. Depends what you're looking for.
Right.
Because usually that's how you create, right? Like, and to be honest, if you are focusing on Angular, then I don't think so. You will be using Promise anywhere.
Yeah,
Just,
we don't
just
use
FYI.
it.
Just FYI.
Just for interview, we are focusing on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
So this is like the basic promise. Now, like how we use in Angular, HTTP API call we do. So similar to that, we use fetch over here. So fetch is the API by which we can make API call. Okay, just like HTTP client, what we do in Angular, just like that. Okay, let's get a URL JSON placeholder. So this is user API. Okay. So now here's the interesting question. Like we always get asked, like, what is the difference between promise and observable? What's the difference we tell normally, guys? Everyone will have faced this question. What's the difference we tell when we say what's the difference between promise and observable?
I just read the difference. Like it, promise works on like for single use and observable, like it
Right.
has some
That is
states.
also one thing. Again, major difference is there.
Promise is lazy and
Right.
and
And
observable is
observable are not.
not lazy.
No.
Promise.
Vice versa, you are
Sorry,
saying, na?
promise is
Promise
not.
are eager. Observables
Promise
are
are eager
Yes.
and
Yes.
observables are lazy.
Observable
Okay.
are lazy.
Yes,
So
correct.
now, how do you explain that? Right? Theoretically, everyone knows. So see, I have written this fetch. Okay. Now where is the page? See, my API call is there. Okay. Am I subscribing to it? I didn't write dot then also, correct? I'm not catching the response of this API call, but still my API call got executed. Okay.
Because of promise.
Right? Because once you write the promise, it doesn't check like if someone is dot then is there, someone is watching me or not, it will execute. That's why it is said like promise are eager. And can we do something like this in Angular? Without subscribe, let's say you created a function without anyone is subscribing, will it execute?
No, sir.
Right? So this is the definition we should, because once your interview grows now, it's not just that different, they will be satisfied. They will ask you, explain it also. So this is the example, just write fetch. And if you write, if you don't write that dot then, still it will execute. But same thing cannot happen with your observable. Okay. Now, so how do we cache the data we get from the fetch? So dot then, okay, result. Now see the response, what do we get in result? Okay. Continue. See, what do we have got? What is this? Anyone have faced question like in Angular, how do we actually read the API call data? Complete data. whatever you get from the API. Complete response. How do you read the complete response from the API call in Angular? Normally with with HTTP client, what do we get? Just the response, actual data, not the whole response. What do we get with API call again? See over here. So here we have response header. This is also coming from a response, or is it we are sending this tag response header? Okay. So when you hit an API, this is your actual data, you can say. Okay. But it's not just this thing you get headers also from it. We can send header from our side also, and from their side also we get some headers. So this is request header, what we send, and this is what do we get from the API. Okay. So when you see where it is, so when you use the dot then in normal fetch API, in response you get whole thing, API call success or not, right? Everything you get, and the actual JSON, like actual response we say, that we get in the body. Okay. Now here you won't be able to see it now. So in this first dot, then what you can do, result dot JSON. Okay. Then again I'm writing dot then JSON only now. Yeah. Let's see result then I will add a debugger. Okay. So see, first dot then will execute. Here I'm converting whatever the data I get into JSON. Okay. Then no result dot body or what? Here we got undefined.
So return,
We
right?
did
You have
something.
to return.
You
Okay.
need to store in some variable.
No,
And
why
then,
we will return?
Yeah, you are
Our
using.
dot then got executed. We just convert JSON or body. What do we do?
JSON only, sir.
No, you must return if you are using arrow function.
If we are using arrow function, so we have to return.
Why body is not required here?
Let's try. Yeah, return. Okay, so now you can see we got the data. So here you can see this was returning promise. We have used one dot then. Here we have performed something. Again we have returned. So again dot then got executed. Like that you can write multiple dot then dot then. Just like in while working in Angular, once we get the data and we want to modify that, so we use dot map operator, right? So similar to that, you got the data. Here you perform something. Again you return it. Again you write the dot then. Okay, let's say you need the first return, first record only. So return result of 0. Okay, again you will write dot then. Single record. So first you get the actual response. From that you are converting that to JSON. Then here you will get the array. From that you are returning the first. So here you can see we got the first object. So if you have used map operator in services, right? Once you get the data from there, you modify and then again return back. So similar to that, we do it over here. Now this same code we can write in our Angular also, but it's again based on the project, what you guys are using like that. Normally no one use fetch in Angular. We use observable only. And to make the API call, we use HTTP client only. We don't use fetch. Okay.
Sir, I have a question. Sir, in fetching from APIs, I usually see the headers. Headers काय असतात? मला काही कळतच नाही ते काय
Headers
नेमकं.
means, see, when you are making an API call, you can send either, let's say, post API. How you send the data along with the API? Either in the URL as a query parameter, or if it's a post API, you send it as a post object in payload. Apart from that, you can send some header also, key value pair data along with your request. So this is nothing but some data gets sent by the browser, just like token also we said, na?
Yeah.
In JWT. So it's like with you, while making your API call, you can send some additional data into your header also. You also send some data, and from API also, they also can send some data in header also. That is response header. This is what we are sending. This is what we are getting it back. Clear? This is what that JSON placeholder might be returning. Okay. Fine. Understood?
Oh, sir, exactly what we send in that header that I don't get.
Key value pair data, simply. Key
Okay.
value pair data. And you cannot send it randomly. Your API also has to receive that, na? You can send it, but doesn't matter if your API is not reading that data. So in case of JWT token, right, we send that, what's the name? Bearer, and that value, token value we send along with the API. In API side, we have that logic. They will read the data from the bearer value, bearer key. It's just key value pair data you are passing. Simple. Okay. Yeah. Anyone having any question? Clear, Promise?
Sir, promise by default is synchronous in nature, not asynchronous, right?
No. Asynchronous. How it will be synchronous? Because promise we have written it over here. And here we are writing the code once this line is executed. Correct? How it will be synchronous? Asynchronous. Let's say inside this you are writing fetch API call. Okay. And once you get the data, then you are returning back. So it is waiting now. Once this API call might take some time, sometimes 5 seconds, 8 seconds, it can be anything. Once your response came, then your dot then is going to execute. Na? So that is asynchronous. Okay.
No, then it's asynchronous. I thought like it will execute dot then
Example,
by
we have
default.
created normal, right? Okay. So this page.
Yeah, thank you.
This by default returning promise, right? So this dot then when it is going to execute once this API call response is there, not before that. Okay. So that is asynchronous.
So promise is asynchronous, and we
Yes.
make some function by explicitly by giving name async and await, right?
That async it away is different. Let's say we have to wait on that particular line. Okay. After that, we need to write something. So just like that, you can say. Okay.
Okay.
Sir, are you going to conduct any class for the Axios and all?
Otherwise, we use in React, no, not in JavaScript. We use Exos in React. Just similar to this, what we do with Fetch, we use Exos to make the API call.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay,
Okay, Shashi, are you there?
Yeah, I'm there.
Sir,
I'm
what
there.
is the difference between fetch and Axios?
Exos is a separate library, just like RxJS.
Yeah, but one of the interviewer asks me like, you have to explain me what is the difference between exactly.
So the difference goes like this: fetch belongs to window object, and Axios is something which is a wrapper around the fetch. So yeah, that's something you can answer in the interview, because this is purely window function. If you see, this fetch has window dot fetch, so it belongs to the window object. But if you see Axios, if you see the real code base of Axios, they are basically a wrapper around this, where they provide multiple utilities and multiple objects where you can pass header, and you can do a lot more things. I hope I was able to answer your question. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you just went to the Axios library and you can see the code, and if you see the GitHub code, right there, you can see it's just a wrapper around it, and it just makes life a bit easier with Axios. but
They
trust
might
me.
have created some
Yeah,
function
yeah,
around it which are not
yeah,
directly available over here.
exactly. Yeah.
Yes,
Right.
and Exist also automatically parses JSON or
Yep.
fetch you need to
Yeah, so
manually.
you don't have to
Then you
convert it
need to
again.
change this, yeah, all
Hmm.
the time. Okay, I would like to ask a question. Anyone here who can answer? Why are we using two time then here? Why we need to change this to get the result? Anyone can answer this? This is one of the also important interview question. Why do we have this two time then?
I think in the first one, we have to convert the JSON data. That's the reason we are using the then over there.
Mm-hmm.
This is
In
according to
in the fetch of response, we can have multiple, along with that multiple responses. So for that, we have used them.
Okay. Anyone else?
If we
We
have
are
to manipulate the
returning.
first response, if we have to manipulate the first response, then
Okay.
we use two times then, right? Let's say if we have to do some logic
Mm-hmm.
before e- before res- before using that response in the HTML template, so we use like to modify the response basically.
Yeah. Okay. So just to answer to those things, right? Whatever you guys said. So the first then basically what it does, right? It basically you gets the response from the backend, which is just the response object. And he showed you, right? You have the header and everything and body, everything. The second then is basically for to convert that if you see in the body, right? The body was something as a stream, a writable stream or readable stream, if you can see. So you need to convert that stream into an actual object, so that parsing happens in the second then. And this is what problems Axios solves. So if you do the API call, you cannot do all this chaining, right? So that's what Axios is there to help you to get rid of this chaining of the promise. So that's the answer. The first thing, you get the object, and then in the second thing you parse the object as a JSON. So that's how you answer an interview. Cool.
okay.
And I would also like to answer one query someone was asking about promise is synchronous or asynchronous. Actually, it depends. Like, can you share the code again?
My
I
power
think
laptop got dead. Laptop dead.
Ah,
We
okay,
have
I see. Okay, but if you see the like whenever you create a promise, right, you say new promise, then you have two callbacks, resolve, comma reject, and inside the callback, inside this the bracket, right, you add some code there. Okay, and after 5 lines of code, then you write resolve, or if you want to reject, then you reject. So whatever code you have written inside that, right, that 5 line code will be synchronous. Okay,
okay.
and when we call this resolve or reject, then it becomes asynchronous. This is kind of a tricky question what they ask, like is it a synchronous behavior or asynchronous behavior. So just try to be very much clear, like what part of the promise is synchronous and what part of the promise is asynchronous. So that's how you answer. When you use resolve and reject, that's where it becomes asynchronous. Whenever whatever code you have inside it, those are still asynchronous code. Maybe if I can share some of my code snippet if I have, uh, that can really help. Wait, where is the chat? So slow, man. Okay,
I think it would be very helpful if you can explain us by looking at the code, by pointing at the code.
uh, if you can you guys see the chat?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you see that the first line, what we have, it's a basic JavaScript code. So we have a console.log start, which is a synchronous code. Then I have created a promise. And if you see the second console where I have written run synchronously. So whatever code above the resolve you have, right, those are synchronous in nature. Okay. And then we have in the last line as console.log. And if you see the output, we have a start, then we have inside promise, and then we have end. Okay. If you want to print resolve, right, then you have to say, then you have to say
Okay.
dot,
Okay.
and then the
So
success will see. Okay.
तेरी आंखें बहुत चलती हैं, लड़की देखे लड़की देखे।
Hello. I hope it was clear. If you still have question, then maybe you can ask.
No, there was a lot of back
Noise.
noises are coming from the.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know who it was, but sorry on his behalf. But yeah, I have written that like when this resolve is called, right, then it becomes asynchronous. But whatever code you see above it, it's all asynchronous code. If you answer in such a way, right, then that really proves that okay, this guy really knows JavaScript and Promise topic. You just cannot
Still,
just
I'm
say
confused. Still, I'm confused.
okay. Okay.
So you said the very first line is synchronous without a, right? Synchronous. The second line is the promise you're creating.
Yes.
Whatever the code in that block, right? After
Yes.
resolve and reject callback function, right?
Yes. This line,
So
which yeah,
that
the
one is console.log inside
Promise.
console.log.
Mm-hmm.
That one is asynchronous, right?
Synchronous.
Synchronous.
Yes. When you
So
call
which
the resolve, if you see, right, if you see in the output, do you see anywhere resolved is consoled anywhere in the output?
no,
Why?
no.
So that means that resolve method that should be asynchronous.
Exactly, yes. Because that will be called when you use dot then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's how it
Okay.
becomes asynchronous. Like synchronous just executes straight away. The moment you create a promise, whatever code block you have, it will execute straight away. But
Okay,
if you
got
want
it.
to, like for example, right, when Chetan was showing the example of fetch, right, he just added a fetch and then he did the API. See, he was not using dot then or anything, but the API call was happening, right? If you remember.
Yeah,
Yes.
in
So
network tab. Yeah.
yeah, so that was the reason. Like promise just goes and executes, eager loading basically, and it just executes. If you want to access some data asynchronously, then you go ahead and use dot then dot catch to handle that and handle the response. Okay.
Okay, got
Now
it.
it is not easy, it's just very tricky. But yeah, once you know the basics, then things becomes easier over the
Yeah.
time. Trust me. It was a bit challenging for me as well, for Chetan as well initially. But yeah, the more you practice, the more you try to understand the fundamental, things will become easier.
Shashi, I was talking about this. This was
Yep.
yesterday I found the console
Mm-hmm.
log. See, this is how you do it. Immediately create it and either resolve it or reject it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Right.
this
So
is what I
this
was
I
telling. Yeah,
uh,
because this resolve is nothing but a
now this
static
is
method.
now this is synchronous.
Yeah. When you say dot then, right, that becomes asynchronous actually, because you're invoking it by using dot then.
Okay,
What?
then what about the set timeout and a set interval? That also comes under asynchronous mode. No?
Yes,
Yeah.
So,
exactly. So there
so
is
how
something
will you say
much.
that then there doesn't exist any then and all? So how will
So
you answer this to me?
okay, so
So it
if
will
you,
be a bit
I'm not.
clear to me also.
Yeah, yeah, I'm not sure if you're aware about JavaScript event loop. Or Chetan, have you took that topic
No,
already?
no, no,
Or
not yet, not yet.
okay, then
Yeah,
once you
Yesterday we
have
discussed.
that
I'm
topic,
aware. Yeah,
sorry.
yeah, I'm aware of it. You go ahead. Hello,
What idea do you
hello.
have about set timeout as a JavaScript, like in event loop? Like, what do you have information about event loop? Can you just explain me in brief?
In set timeout, we whatever block of code we are writing and that executes after the time that we are specifying. Like if it is 1000 milliseconds, then it will execute after 1 second and
Mm-hmm.
like that.
That's
Yeah.
functionality, how it is,
Uh,
how what happens behind the scenes.
What happens exactly in the event loop when I use a set timeout?
so means the execution of the block stops for five whatever time that we have
Again,
given
same
to
thing.
it, and for that bit of period, it takes a delay. In short, we can say.
He's
Yeah,
asking
Means it
I got
background
delays
how
it.
it will.
I got your point. I'm asking what happens in the event loop if I use a set timeout. You said that you know about it. I just want to understand your understanding about it.
Okay, I know a bit this much only. What
No, no, no.
exactly you are asking, I am not aware of it.
Yeah,
We have
exactly.
call
So
stack, event loop. So
yeah,
Yeah,
beyond that, how it
inside it,
works,
maybe you are asking inside
micro stack and Micro stack.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is something called as you guys said, there is a call stack, there is a task queue, which is a macro task queue, then is a micro task queue, and there is something called as web
Auto
API.
modality.
Web
Yeah,
APIs.
exactly. So once we cover this, the event loop topic, right, things will become crystal clear. Like, because the problem is, right, JavaScript is not a multi-threaded language. First of all, JavaScript runs on a single thread. Then you guys can have a question like, if it is a single thread, then how the hell this is achieving asynchronous behavior? Because async is only possible if it is multi-threaded. So there is a beautiful guy whose name is event loop, which comes into the picture. And basically what this event loop does, it basically handles the execution of piece of code. Okay, maybe once Chetan will come to that topic, right, maybe we can discuss more about
Yes.
that, and we can make things really clear why set timeout is asynchronous.
So
Okay.
event loop runs on a separate thread other than the main thread, or like how it works then?
Yeah, it works on the same main thread. So everything has, okay, when I say a single thread or main thread, it's just a one single main thread where everything is there, like your call stack, your event loop, and whatever you say, we just have a one thread, which is the main one where it runs. So you guys must seen, right, when you're if you're using a core i3 machine and people go and complain, hey, my code is running very slow, my Angular application is so fast on my friend's MacBook, but it is running very slow in my core i3 machine. What do you think, why is the reason, why is that reason? It's because of your thread is not able to handle such big tasks, because your machine is not just here to run JavaScript only. There are multiple things which are running behind the scene, right? Yes or no?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's what it is. So which means there is only one thread where this your event loop and everything basically executes. And this event loop, what it does, right, it just like keep the responsibility to, like, as per the stack, right, if it is micro task, macro task, based on that it will just go and execute. And it's not, it will take so much time, it is so fast that you cannot see, like it is not visible to the bare eyes, because whatever you see on the web, everything is JavaScript. The Chrome what you're using is a JavaScript, runs JavaScript. Facebook, Instagram, whatever web application you see, everything is a JavaScript. So you guys cannot just say, hey, I think it does that really take some time that event loops to run. No, it's very fast. You just cannot see with the bare eyes, hey, this is how it is executing. So I think there is a website where you can see how that with an actual animation, where it tries to, maybe I can share a link to Chetan and he can share it to you guys. You can really see the animation, okay, what happens line by line in the event loop, and
That
that things
event
can,
loop call stack you cannot imagine unless you see the diagram, how that
exactly, yeah,
works and how
exactly.
event loop pick the task and move it to the upper one.
Yeah, it's a very
It's
crucial
that
topic
much.
actually, and it's very hard to
And
explain to the
how
beginners,
that
but
JavaScript work, if you
yeah,
understand that, then you can be confident like how JavaScript actually works.
exactly, bro. Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so these were the questions. See, let's say we have console.log I, right? Then we have set timeout, then we have promise, then again we have set timeout. So here, like that micro stack and macro stack will come into picture. So this will print, then this will print, then your promise will execute, then your set timeout, because this will go to that mic micro, I think. Promise will go to the micro and
Micro.
set timeout will go to the macro. So this
Yeah,
has the higher. So event loop will decide. First, it will check like micro stack has something. It will come. It will first execute that. Then from the macro stack. So
So
these are the
basically,
output
there
way by
is a
tasking.
kind of word memory exist. Like this line of code goes into the memory of the system, then accordingly it get executed.
Wait, let me find that image. Uh, see if we can. Here also it's not clear. Where is that image? Let's try this. Okay, so see, this is your stack. Okay, whatever the execution happening, it will happen over here. Let's say you got the set timeout. So that set timeout will be sent to a different queue. Okay, that we call that as callback queue. In again callback queue, we have micro and the micro and the macro. Set timeout, set interval go to the macro, and fetch promise will go to the micro. And in the callback queue means JavaScript will execute synchronous, right? So where it is console.log. So this will execute first. Then we have set timeout. So it will send it back to the callback queue. Okay. Then we got promise. Again, it will, these are asynchronous by default, we say. This will again send back to the callback queue. Then it will execute this. Now in the current thread, we don't have anything running. Then it will check your queue, callback queue, like what is pending to be executed. Then according to this will go to the micro stack. So micro stack has the higher precedence over the macro. So this will first execute, then your set timeout and set interval will execute. Means after inside normal execution, these are sent back to some different queue. It's a single thread only, but these are sent to the different queue. And once your normal execution are done, then they will check the queue, like what is pending now to execute. Then it will come on to the top of the stack. Are you able to understood?
Yes,
This is
thank
the
you, sir.
diagram
It's
you can relate,
in simple language you understand.
right? So this is how actually JavaScript works behind the scene. One who understands this, he will be that much confident, but not, it's like I cannot also explain it properly because it's hard to explain and you won't be able to unless you see it multiple times, then you might got it. Okay. This time I'm preparing, this time I actually got it. Last time I didn't get it properly. I skipped the question even through. Okay. So it's not like if you understood this for the first time, don't worry, no one will understand this for the first time. Okay. Okay, fine. Yeah,
हेलो
Shashi,
सर
yeah, go ahead.
सर ऑल सेटल में जैसे फॉक जेन में एक भी सर्विस एरर शो सेंड करती है तो फॉक जेन में सब कुछ हम डेटा कैसे ले सकते हैं ऑल सेटल जैसा
फॉग जेन में नहीं ना, फॉग जेन का बिहेवियर ही वैसा है ना कि हर कोई एग्जीक्यूट होने के बाद ही एग्जीक्यूट होता है वो, जैसा अपना ऑल है।
तो दूसरा कौन सा ऑप्शन है क्या
दूसरा शशि कोई है दूसरा ऑप्शन जैसा फुलफिल्ड है?
I don't think so, man.
Merge up, I thought.
But that will really don't make sense ना, मैं वो उस वे में सोच रहा हूँ because अभी तक तो मुझे ऐसा कुछ ऐसा आया नहीं सिनेरियो कि where we need something जहाँ पे 5 API कॉल हो रहा है and then
और एक
पता
भी
नहीं
हो सकती है।
yeah.
शायद merge map है, I'm not sure.
Merge map it just merges whatever data you have, right, synchronously, but आपको फिर एक एक करके observable में डालने पड़ेंगे, like
It's
सारे
like one
observable
after
डालने
another,
पड़ेंगे, then it
one
will
after
make it,
another.
yeah.
Correct.
Nested, just like
Yeah.
nested.
Yeah, it also takes an array, basically array and observable, and it will merge all of them. I think that's true. That can really make sense here. Yeah, with merge map.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Sir,
आज
I
मेरा
have a question. What the difference between promise and callback? Because I am.
callback is a normal function which you pass as a parameter to another function. Okay.
Yep.
And that you will execute after some particular line. But promise is like best example API call you can take. It is waiting unless that response is there. It looks like similar, but there is a difference.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. So best example API call you can say fetch. They will be happy with that. Okay. So
Sir,
Sashi,
to understand all this macro, micro, I don't know anything about it. So where can I refer? Like from where can I read on it?
if you understand Akshay Saini's explanation, you can refer his.
Acha, I haven't
He will go
watched
into
his
deep.
any of videos. Yeah,
So
I will
he
be
goes in
watching.
depth. So if you are able to understand him, then he
Okay.
will explain it properly.
Okay.
Other I have also not seen.
Okay.
Yeah. So fine.
Maybe if I get time, I can take a session if you want.
Yeah, no, tomorrow. Let
Yeah,
me know whenever you
sure,
are free
you
now.
can.
Maybe
We
I
need
can
to
take
see that
that.
image and everything. Then only that will be properly understood.
Yeah, it's a very good one actually. I love to teach that topic, but yeah, let's see if I get time tomorrow. Is
Let me know.
Friday, right?
Likewise, I will skip something. Then you can take over.
Tomorrow is Thursday. Sure.
Yeah,
Not a
you both of you discuss and you just let us know. We will be available for that because it will give us also a good knowledge.
Yep. Okay.
Maybe I'll
So
try to write a blog for you if you want in the meantime. That I can do.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yep, yep.
okay, Sashi, what does proxy does? So today Morgan Stanley interview was there. They was having a drawing. First round got clear. In second round, I think he was tech lead, architect. So he
Mm-hmm.
asked me like normally course issue. What do we get course issue? Like if from API side, if we block some particular port, it will run
Mm-hmm.
onto that port. That was also I know. I
Mm-hmm.
remember like we can create a proxy also.
Mm-hmm.
That's just I know. But he wanted answer like what do we do actually in proxy? Means considering
Basically, it's
course
just.
issue.
But if see right, whenever you see something called as course, straight
Hmm.
away the problem is in the back end.
Yeah.
Never blames
He
to the
also
front end
he
if there is a
also
problem.
said, but if your API is not like that, we can
Mm-hmm.
still access that by creating proxy.
So proxy is something which I think we make use of by using Nginx. So
Hmm.
what happens, right? Yeah, proxy we can create by using Nginx. What it does, right?
Hmm.
Whenever your API call, whenever you are calling, right? When you it, so for example, your backend is running on localhost
Hmm.
3000, okay,
Hmm.
and your front end runs on 4200.
Hmm.
So basically, what that Nginx does, right? It creates a proxy internally because I have used that code basically. So what it does, whenever the request is going from 4200, the
Hmm.
proxy will understand that hey, this is an API one because you are
Hmm.
writing that. It's just a 20 line of code, I guess. I think I have it in my some of my
No, but
GitHub
he
repo.
was interested in what it actually does in proxy.
It,
Same thing
it
I
basically
tell.
just it
He was
just
not.
mimics like whenever you have a local host 4200, right? Whenever a request goes from here,
Hmm.
it just make to act as hey, it is going from 3000. So what
Right.
happens? Backend is
Making
already
believe that it is coming from the same origin.
exactly. It just mimics the origin. That's all.
Right.
If you are into
Got
.NET, right, you must have heard the Kestrel
Quarkus.
server, which is a
Kestrel. Yeah.
middleman.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a reverse proxy of a .NET,
Okay.
by which .NET becomes an open source. You can run it on Linux, you
Hmm.
can run it on Mac OS or Windows. So it's
Right.
just kind of a reverse proxy what you add to the front end, so that
Hmm.
just to mimic that backend URL behavior, the origin behavior. That's all.
One more question he asked. Let's say we have store implemented.
Mm-hmm.
In that store, we got some data from the API call and we store it into store. I need to
Okay.
read that store data
At
only once.
cache, we
Only once.
Wait, wait, wait. Can you please come
We
again?
have store implemented. We have one
Uh-huh.
API call. Data we
Mm-hmm.
get from API call, we store into that store.
Okay.
That data we are, let's say in component, we are selecting that data by using selector or directly writing
Uh-huh.
select also. But I need to
Okay.
run that line only once. Just like once I read the data, I need to unsubscribe kind of thing.
Okay.
So
And
I
you're using
said like
NGR store, is it?
he was looking for take until.
Take
I
until.
yeah, I said like I will create an observable. I will and once I receive the data, I will unsubscribe. But no, he was looking for take until. Then finally he said no. Take until you can provide how many number of times you want to listen. So
You know
does
what?
take until does
Yeah,
unsubscribe by default?
there is something called as take. That's all. Not even take until.
Sorry, take. Yeah,
Yeah.
take only.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
by default it will unsubscribe after that particular number of time.
Okay.
Is it or no? I'm asking
Yeah,
you.
it is. Take can does the job. Take basically okay. First of all, whenever we are doing HTTP call, right?
Hmm.
People say that hey, observable, you have a stream of data and all of those, right?
Right. Hmm.
Okay. So let me tell you guys, whenever you are doing HTTP call, there is no stream of data. There is always a one data. Okay, just to be clear here, because
Hmm.
I got a lot of people asking me, hey Shashi, but observable is a stream of data. That is true. But
Hmm.
with API call, you're not getting a stream of data. You're not doing a stream. When you say REST API, it's
Hmm.
just you go to the backend, you get a record and you display. It's a single data. It can
Single
be an
data.
array of data, it can be a single object, it depends, but it will be just one data. So even if you make use of take, it will, and you have to say even if you put there two, right, it will only take one because you have only one. So I
Hmm.
don't understand what that guy will achieve by saying that, because anyway we are using those async pipe and
Yeah, I first he
all
let
of
me
those.
complete everything. Then he was
Yeah,
cross questioning like that. No, now let's say I want to read it once and then I want to unsubscribe. So I said I will do unsubscribe or I will use a
yeah,
sync pipe.
exactly. Yeah, then
No. He was stuck onto that. Then he jumped. Finally, like everything was going well, so he jumped to test cases. He said
okay.
like we need. How do we? What? Then he said take until take, and now how do we write the test case?
Mm-hmm.
Said like I'm using Copilot for basic code generation, then I write the code.
Mm-hmm.
Saying like, so it's not you, it's Copilot governing your code. I said yes.
Okay, so basically, maybe I can answer to that. When we are doing the unit testing for this, right? So there is something called as cold observable and hot observable. So we have to go and mimic the dot subscribe. So we can basically spy on the subscribe, and then in the spy, what we can see that the subscribe is only executed one time. So you can have your expect this spy dot mock called once. There is something called as dot called once. So that really proves that okay, this API called once and it was just done. If you put it there to write, just to write a
It
negative
will break.
test cases as well, then it should fail. Something
Okay.
like that.
So
So
if you
that's
have
how.
take over here, so
Yeah.
I said it like if you're writing something, every same thing we have to replicate in test cases also. But he
Yep.
wanted that same. How do we write?
Yeah.
I said like we are using Copilot, but he was
See,
not
one thing what I feel really lucky about, like when I was learning this Angular or whatever the technology, thank God AI was not there. I'm so happy to
right.
be honest. I
Test
think
cases
that's why I think I put it on some of the LinkedIn post also. I feel so lucky that AI was not there,
yeah, was not there.
because I know if I was young, then I would have been addicted to this AI thing. But now I know how to control myself. So
Right.
And can you share your LinkedIn?
Yeah, we'll share it.
He's a
Anything with
famous YouTuber, man. You don't know,
no,
Shashi.
no, bro, I'm still
Like
not famous,
program.
man.
Bro, Venkatesh, actually, I'm following you long back.
Yeah, but I'll try to be active, guys, for you guys very soon. Let's see. Maybe we both can collaborate one day in live session and we'll do some peer programming. Me and
Hey,
Chetan.
you and
Let's see.
Chetan is contributing a lot to Angular developers
I
in
think Angular
YouTube.
is. I
Yeah.
think he's doing great job as compared to me.
Yeah, he
Hands
have a
down.
lot of consistency. He's helping a lot.
Yep, yep. I'm so happy that he's doing that, man. Appreciate it.
Coming
Okay.
to Shashi, you told like a stream of data, like how we can exactly stream. We can't get normally in stream of data means.
So it was just an observable topic, man. So if you are doing a REST API call, then don't expect a stream of data. It is just you will get a single response basically. Like for example, you are trying to fetch 1,000 record from a database. Imagine you don't have a server side pagination, okay? So you are doing an API call, right? And you have 1,000 record coming from the backend, so you will just get 1,000 record as an array of object. That's all. It's just a one source, like one data as a single array.
Yeah, but if you are definitioning like for observable, we mentioning stream, right? Then how we
Yeah.
can I mean, justify that stream?
Then for the stream, right, then it depends on your backend. Your back, for example, you see YouTube, right? YouTube, you get array buffers if you have a file, right? So file data, or if you see when you do how do I say, if you're using a chat GPT API, right? So the response, whenever you type something, you get the text slowly, 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 right?
Yeah, yeah.
I hope you get what I'm trying to mean. Like if you search,
Yeah, yeah,
that's something called as streaming. So that has to be configured in your backend. And if you go ahead and use the observable, that's what you can do. So whenever the data will be receiving to that, and if you are subscribed to that, and there is some flag you need to enable a response, or I'm not recalling the exact term, but there is something called as progress true. It's basically a boolean whenever you do a API call. If you say progress as true, then that will basically go and stream your data, and then that will be subscribed, and that's how people go and show that response what you get from the chat GPT API. But yeah, it heavily depends on the backend actually. If backend is providing you the array buffer or those kind of data, then maybe you can stream it in the front end, something like that. Yeah, and then their observable can play a really good role.
yeah. Okay.
Okay, but let me tell you, like for me, it's been 6 7 years of experience now. I'm heavily using Angular in my day to day life. It's very rare that I have to use those. Very rare. Maybe in my personal project I'm using, but not in my any company project. It is This is just my experience. If they ask me to do, I will do it for sure. I have Google. I can do my search and I can get it done. The main thing is you should know the fundamental. Okay.
Mm.
Cool. Cool.
Okay. Thank you,
I'm
Shashi.
sorry, Chetan. I'm hijacking your
No,
session
no,
in
no, nothing.
between. I'm so sorry about that. But yeah, I
Yeah,
think
yeah.
it's good that we are sharing our knowledge, exchanging our
No,
knowledge.
I'm also
glad.
preparing. So taking this session now, everyone will
Mm,
ask something new. So that also
yes,
get us the opportunity like, no, what is this?
that's how I also prepare. That's good,
Right,
right?
right. Okay. Thank you guys. So I thought like today we will see function, but somehow I ended up in promise. So tomorrow we will see function, what things we have in function. Okay. Fine. Thank you all. Thanks, Shashi.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, bye bye.
Night.
Thanks, guys. Bye.